guys, it's Miss Fletcher coming to you with your daily English lesson. Today is Thursday, January 28th. And we're doing, what we did today is we're going to move back onto writing. And we're going to be doing comparing and contrasting writing. It's expository writing. So we did narrative writing. You've been doing quite a bit of descriptive writing in your journals as of late. So we're going to move on past that one for now. We're going to go into expository writing, okay? And with expository writing, we'll be doing a compare and a contrast essay. So, all right, so hang on 1 second for me. Give me 1 minute here. So I didn't use your textbook really to do this lesson. I'm using a different one, which I use sometimes for writing because it has a little bit more information. So I'll be mostly reading information to you, and then I'll give you the assignment that you're going to have to do, okay? So expository writing is writing to inform and explain. So you'll need to know that is what expository writing is. Our objective, of course, will be to become familiar with 6 forms of expository writing and to practice using them. Now, not necessarily 6 forms. We're probably going to do 2 or maybe 3 forms of expository writing. We're going to start with compare and contrast. We'll probably move to cause and effect, and we'll also be doing just an expository writing assignment, like to explain something or to tell how to do something. So, but we'll get into that, when we get there. And so for now, today, we're doing compare and contrasting, okay? So just so you know, expository writing is what you do to give directions, explain a new term or idea, compare one thing to another, or explain how to do something. Okay, so these are the things that you do with expository writing. And again, you'll be doing comparing and contrasting. Okay, so comparing and contrasting means you take the similarities and the differences of, 2 things, 2 separate entities or whatever, and you're going to put them into an essay. Okay, so, and the objective for that is to compare and contrast elements. We're going to make a graphic organizer today. That will be your homework or the assignment that you'll be turning in, but I'll get to that in just a little bit. Okay, so let me just tell you a little bit about comparing and contrasting, okay? So when you compare 2 or more subjects, you explain how they are similar. When you contrast them, you explain how they are different. So again, comparing means similarities, contrasting means differences, okay? So I'm going to read you a little compare and contrast. It's not really an essay, but it's like a semi-essay, if you will, just a paragraph about comparing and contrasting. So listen carefully so you can see the differences in what I'm talking about, okay? So this is about a student who is a Japanese exchange student, and he's comparing and contrasting American schools to Japanese schools in the way they do things, okay? So he says, life in America has exposed me to radical differences between Japanese and U.S. schools. In the United States, students rarely study more than 2 hours a night. In part, that's because so many have part-time jobs. In my high school in Japan, they said we couldn't get jobs. If you get a job, you can't study, they said. But also, some students in the United States take advantage of free environment. What he's saying is the environment is more free, less disciplined, or less strict in America than it is in Japan. And he's saying that I don't understand why it's so easy to skip class. On the positive side, it's the open curriculum. In America, we have to choose our classes and choose our teachers. In Japan, I didn't like the teachers and they didn't like students. In America, a teacher is like a friend. I also like the social aspects of school in America. I have an American girlfriend and I go to school dances. In Japan, school is for studying. There's not many good experiences. In America, we get a lot of good experiences. It makes a lot of nice memories. So that's, again, a little paragraph comparing and contrasting high school in America with high school in Japan, written by a Japanese exchange student. So the first sentence, what he's doing there is he's introducing the main idea. Okay, he's talking about the radical differences between U.S. and Japanese schools. So that's his main idea. So he's going to stick to that information as he's writing his paragraph or his essay. Okay, And then he compares features of Japanese and U.S. schools, like study habits, teacher-student relationships, and social life. So he's comparing comparing some of those things, okay? So, and then when he does a graphic organizer, he'll put it, it's a Venn diagram, and let me see. This is I know you've seen Venn diagrams before. This is what they look like. Venn diagram. It's the circles. Here you put, you have two intertwining circles. Okay, so on each outside circle, you're going to put your contrasts. Now remember, contrasts are differences. So the different things you're going to put out on these outer circles. In this inner circle, you'll be putting the similarities of your topic. Okay, so contrasts and comparisons. Okay? So this is what you're going to be doing, and I'm going to download this for you on Google Classroom. So you'll be doing a graphic organizer called a Venn diagram for your comparing and contrasting. Okay. So for instance, when he does his, he's doing Japanese schools to U.S. schools. Okay. So in his two circles here, in these two circles on the outside, right here, he's saying, okay, Japanese schools. He has labeled one as Japanese schools, one as U.S. schools. Okay. And then he's saying, so Japanese schools, here's what he says are the contrasts. More than 2 hours of studying, more than 2 hours of homework, no jobs, no choice of classes or teachers. School is for studying, not socializing. And then for U.S. schools, he's saying limited homework because of part-time jobs and extracurricular activities. Some required courses, some electives, and some choice of teachers. And then social life is a big part of school, and extracurricular activities, big part of school, where in Japan, they're not. So, and then his similarities, which are going in this section here, he is saying that standardized tests are a part of the similarity. Like you take those tests like the FCAT or the MAPS test that you take, and you would take tests like that in Japan as well. And basically those measure you against other students in your grade. And then competitive environments. He felt like both schools had competitive environments. Okay. So, and we know that you have sports, you have grades, things that you compete about sometimes. So, especially in high school, kids would compete for being the valedictorian or the, getting all A's or something like that. So that's what he's talking about there. So really it's not that difficult. Okay. You're just going to, comparing and contrasting. Okay. Now when you do that, you can do it point by point. For instance, you're going to take a point and you're going to, talk about each thing, or you can do it like in whole, they're not really called units. But you can do it like split it up. For instance, first he might talk about Japanese schools, do a paragraph about that. And then he might do his next paragraph about U.S. schools, comparing and contrasting that way. Like he might just tell all about Japanese schools. Like for instance, he might say, in Japanese high schools, there are more than 2 hours of homework and no jobs are allowed. There's no choice of classes or teachers, and school is for studying, not socializing. Whereas in U.S. schools, he's going to do his next point on U.S. schools. Okay. So he might say there's limited homework because of part-time jobs and extracurricular activities. There's some required courses and some electives, and you can also sometimes choose your teachers. And then there's also a social life, which is a big part of school. So he'll say his second part. So you have your, hang on, let me just kind of put it out here for you. So you have your 5-paragraph essay. So you have your intro, then you have your first body. Hang on a minute. Let me just write this out. All right. And then you have your second body. And then you might have a third body, or you will have a third body. Maybe other facts or something. And then you'll have your conclusion. So, again, you have your introduction, and I hope you can see this. I'll try to hold it as close to the phone or video as I can. So you're going to have your introduction. You're going to be introducing your subject. Then in your first body paragraph, you might talk all about the Japanese school, Japanese high school. Second body paragraph, you might talk about the United States high school. Third body paragraph, you might talk about other facts, and then you're going to conclude it by wrapping everything up together. And you should already know that, but when you're doing a compare and contrast, you can do it in units, like talk about the Japanese high school, talk about the American high school, talk about some of the other facts about them, and then conclude it. Okay? But when you're doing it point by point, you might do like, all right, so you have your intro again, and then you have Japanese. This is point by point. Let me write it out. American. Japanese. American. Etc. And then your conclusion. Okay, so what you're doing with point by point is you are, of course, doing your intro anyway, like you normally would, and then you're going to go point by point. So you make a point about the Japanese school, you make another point about the American school, etc. That would all be in your first body paragraph. Then again, in your second, you might make a point about the Japanese school, the American school, and then you're putting all of that. Third body paragraph, same thing. So you're doing point by point. You're saying this happens in Japan in high school, this happens in American high school. This happens in Japan in high school, these things happen in American high school, et cetera, and then you conclude it by wrapping it up. Now, we won't actually be writing for another week or so, but we are going to practice. So the way you're going to practice today and just getting used to choosing a subject or a topic and, kind of brainstorming your ideas is to do a Venn diagram. Again, you've got to remember your topic needs to be narrowed. You can't just say, okay, I'm going to do it about McDonald's and Burger King. Okay, much too broad. So you need to narrow that down. What do you want to do about McDonald's and Burger King? Do you want to talk about their menus, the healthy choices they might offer for or not for food, those types of things, the types of customers that they appeal to, like say kids or families or whatever. So you're going to narrow it. Okay, so you're going to narrow it and then you're going to compare and contrast with those points. For instance, if you're going to talk about sports, you may not want to just say sports. I'm going to compare football and basketball. You would want to take aspects of those sports. Or if you're going to talk about athletes, you want to take aspects like this is how they compare, this is how they contrast. Okay, this is how they're the same, this is how they're different. So you're going to do that. You're going to have to narrow. The other thing you need to remember to do is you need to use facts. You can't just make this stuff up. Like you can't just say, well, Wendy's has flat hamburgers and McDonald's has round hamburgers. Or Wendy's has square hamburgers and McDonald's has round hamburgers. That's not really relevant. I mean, it's a difference, of course, but you don't want to just slap something in there like that. You want to make it more of a fact. For instance, something like Burger King appeals to vegetarians by offering I don't remember what that burger's called, Impossible Burger or something. It's made out of vegetables. So something like that. And then McDonald's appeals to families because it offers value meals or something like that. So you're going to narrow it to not just talking about Burger King, McDonald's, or Wendy's and McDonald's or whatever, but you're going to be talking about some specific aspect of that particular entity. Okay, that makes sense. And you're going to have to use facts, statistics, things like that. Like you might say 9 out of 10 families prefer McDonald's because the prices are more family oriented or more value oriented, something like that. So you're using a fact, whereas, more elderly people prefer Burger King because the food is lighter in calories or something, so you're using like statistics. So you're going to be writing an actual paper with facts, details, evidence, statistics, etc. when you get to your paper writing. So, and that's some of the things that you need to remember. So you're going to be doing, again, the graphic organizer. You'll be doing that for your assignment. I'll be putting it on Google Classroom. This is what it'll look like, and you'll be filling it in. And so I just made a little bit of a diagram here. So say you're comparing middle school and high school, okay, which is still pretty broad, but you can still do it. And I don't know if you can see this or not, but you're going to have middle school over here, high school over here. So your middle school, high school, and then your similarities are going to go there in the little circle in the middle. Okay. So for instance, middle school grades 6 through 8. Of course, that's a difference. High school grades 9 through 12. Okay. Middle school, no options for electives. High school, you get electives. You can choose other subjects besides your core subjects. Less homework maybe in middle school, more homework in high school. So again, you're contrasting. These are the differences in your little squares there. All right. And then say less pressure in middle school to get perfect grades because it's not for college, heading toward college, etc. So anything like that, anything you're comparing and contrasting, you want to make sure to use factual differences and similarities. For instance, similarities for middle and high school, you could say that you take classes, you take core classes like history, English, math, science, etc. Each school would probably have sports programs for students to participate in. Schools might have uniforms like private schools. Our school, St. John Lutheran, has uniforms in middle school and high school, so that could be a similarity. And then you have teachers that would not specify, but teachers that would specialize in certain subjects. Like you have an English teacher who's certified in English. You have a history teacher who's certified in history, etc. So those types of things are similarities. Okay, so it's just a little showing you how to do the Venn diagram. So what you want to do is you want to choose a topic. Again, make sure it's narrow enough that you can compare and contrast. Then you want to do your Venn diagram. Contrast, contrast, compare. Similarities, differences. Okay? You're going to label what it is, like say you, choose, and then here you're just going to write similarities. You can just write it at the top. So, okay? So, and make sure that you do this. This will be on Google Classroom for you, and it's a homework assignment, so you'll turn it in for the next class, which is Monday. So that would be the... not sure the date. Today's the 28th. I think it'll be the 1st of February on Monday. But anyway, Monday. That's when it'll be due. And I'll have that on Google Classroom for you as well. Okay? So that's pretty much all I have. If you have any questions, please be sure and email me and let me know. I don't know if I went through this too fast or not. It's a little bit more difficult when you're online trying to give you all the information that you need without being able to visually show you easily. So just email me if you have any questions, okay? Make sure you're doing the assignment. Make sure you understand it. And if you don't, again, email me and I can go over it with you, okay? So that's all I have for today. I will be putting this on Google Classroom and sending you an email with this link. So again, reach out, okay? Have a great day. Bye.